Hello everyone and welcome to the round 2 of this year's classical super tournament, the Superbet Chess Classic. We have a great game between the local hero Bogdan-Daniel Deac and Jan Nepomniachtchi, who just finished his World Chess Championship match against Dinglieren. And if you guys remember what Fabiano Caruana said as he was also commenting on the World Chess Championship match, he said that after his game against Magnus Carlsen in 2018 in London, after his match, the World Chess Championship match, he had leftover preparation for at least one incredible tournament, and then maybe a little bit of preparation for one more tournament, and then maybe here and there, you remember something that you had prepared, and you were able to launch an attack or defend a difficult position or something. But you think, yeah, okay, you think that maybe you have like for a full year of tournaments. No, Fabi says that you have like for one good tournament. This is the first tournament Nepo is playing after the World Chess Championship match, so let's see what he has prepared and are there any good leftovers. So Bogdan-Daniel has the white pieces and he opens with pawn to d4. As you can see, he's 2700. Sorry about that. He's 2700 and Nepo is very, very close to 2800. Both him and Dinglieren are very close to 2800. So if they do well here in this tournament, they could break the 2800 barrier. So here we have pawn to d4, knight to f6, c4, e6, knight to f3, and now pawn to d5. Going for the queen's gambit declined, knight to c3, bishop to e7, and now bishop to f4. The Hurwitz attack, we have castles, pawn to e3, and c5. So this is all very, very standard stuff. This is the absolute main line, so they are not doing any adventure seeking here. So d captures on c5, bishop captures, and pawn to a3, preparing some b4 in the future. Knight to c6, and now queen to c2. We have queen to a5, sort of going into that b4 move, but you can't really because, bishop can just capture and the rook on a1 is undefended. So here, rook to d1, and now usually in this position, it's a very well-known position, people just move back the bishop to e7, and there are some other lines like rook to e8, rook to d8, also a well-known move. I'm sure you guys have seen it, but here Nepo plays pawn to h6, and it is not a new move. It has been played a few times by some interesting players like Laurent Fressinet tried it, Casacoli tried it, and well, it's very, very complicated. The point is, if you strike with b4 right away, black gets an incredible attack. Look at this: knight captures on b4, a captures, bishop captures. How do you save the knight? You can play something like bishop to e5, but then comes knight to e4, just piling up on the knight on c3, and after rook c1, now you chase away the bishop, and that's it. White can pretty much resign. So instead, after this h6 move, we have bishop to e2 by Bogdan-Daniel, and now knight to e4. Nepo just piles up on the c3 knight, c captures on d5, and now there is a game where knight captures on c3 was played, but here we have e captures on d5, and it is now as of move 12 that we have a completely new game, and this is what Nepo had in mind. Look at this: rook captures on d5, pins the bishop to the queen, but now comes knight captures on c3, queen captures, and Nepo just plays bishop to b4. Look at this spectacular idea. Now, the point is, if you capture the queen, then Nepo will first capture the queen with check, and after you capture, also gobble up the rook on a5. He's going to be up the exchange, and he's going to enjoy his position very much. The A and C pawn are weak. He's going to be able to gobble them up and very likely win the game easily. So Bogdan-Daniel tries a different approach. He tries a captures on b4, also gives up the exchange, but you don't really have any other choice here. Queen captures on d5, and now pawn to b5. Attacking the knight to e7, and he just castles to safety. And now if you look at this position, yes, Nepo is up the exchange, but Bogdan-Daniel is up a pawn, and his b5 pawn, although it's a doubled pawn, prevents Nepo from just advancing those pawns to victory. So here we have bishop to e6, and now comes knight to d4. Going after the bishop here, we have knight to f5, offering a trade of knights, and now just a trade on e6. Knight for bishop, captures, and pawn to h3. We have rook f to d8, and now bishop to f3. Look at that bishop pair doing a very good job here, and it seems like it's very hard for Nepo to get the rook into the game, but there's rook to c8. Rook a to c8 just attacks the queen, so queen to a5, and now how do you defend the pawns? Well, you don't. Nepo just plays pawn to b6. He will use his b pawn to stop the doubled b b-pawn. And after queen captures on a7, now he shifts the attention over to the king side, pawn to g5. And now he says, yes, you do have the bishop pair, but your 2-1 advantage on the queen side doesn't really do anything, as those pawns are completely blockaded. The bishops aren't really targeting anything. There's nothing there to target. Those bishops are not very nicely placed, and also maybe the king safety will be an issue here. So how are you defending? We have bishop to h2, knight to h4 now. Nepo goes after the bishop here, bishop to b7, and now rook to c2. Now Nepo will bring the other rook to d2 and go for a very nice kingside attack. We have queen to a4, attacks the rook, but just rook to c4, attacks the queen right back, queen back to a6, and now king to g7. A little bit of king safety before deciding on how to continue with the attack, and now pawn to b4. This opens up this diagonal while also, sorry, not that obviously, this diagonal while also prevents rook captures on b4. If you play that, then you lose control over the c7 square. Bishop c7 will target the rook and the pawn here, so maybe giving your opponent a bit too much. So rook to c2 by Nepo, queen to a1 with check, and now even pawn to f6. We have king to h1, but now you lose control over the f2 pawn. So Nepo brings the other rook into the attack, rook d to d2 with tempo, attacking the f2 pawn. So bishop g3 attacks the knight, knight to f5 goes after the bishop. We have bishop to c6 now, and rook to a2. And here, rook to a2 attacks the queen, queen to b1, and now pawn to h5. You could also start some pawn grabbing, or you could mess up white's pawn structure, but Nepo wants to further push pawns and go for the attack. So queen to e4, you have to trade queens, otherwise, well, you're just going to get crushed. Queen captures on e4, bishop captures, and now Nepo trades. Knight captures on g3, f captures on g3, and now rook a to b2. And now you can see that this pawn will definitely fall. It's on a dark square. This pawn will very likely fall, as it's on a dark square and only the rook can defend it. So is there any counterplay here? Is it possible to save this position? The answer is no. So here we have bishop to f3, king to h6, and now pawn to g4. Nepo, of course, keeps the position blocked. He wants the pawns on the same squares as this light square bishop, so they're not really very useful. Bishop to c6, and now just king to g7. Nepo will win the b4 pawn at some point. He just doesn't need to rush it. King to h2. Now comes rook captures on b4, as there's really no better way to improve for the moment. And now rook to a1. Here you might be thinking, but what about rook to e1? Can't we just defend the pawn with the rook and keep this pawn defended with the bishop? Yes, you can, but rook b to b2, and the white is out of moves. And you know that in a position where you're out of moves, you're in a zugzwang, at some point you will have to make a terrible move that will cost you the game. You will not be able to keep defending this pawn, and also stop all the counterplay from black. So usually players, when they have to decide whether to go into such a passive position and wait for a strong, almost 2800 grandmaster like Nepo to just show his mastery and crush them, they will seek for activity at the price of material. So here rook to a1 was played, rook to e2, Nepo goes after the pawn. Now king g1. We have rook b to b2, rook to a7 with check. We have king to f8, now comes rook to a8 with check, king to e7, and it was in this position on move 44 that Bogdan-Daniel Deac resigned the game, and a very nice victory for Jan Nepomniachtchi in round 2 of this year's Superbet Chess Classic. Now this is it's not a complicated endgame, but I'm sure some of you are wondering, how do you win this? How do you because the bishop is guarding this pawn and also this pawn, so surely you get the idea. You will force a white to trade one rook, and then at some point, at the perfect moment, you will bring your king to c5 or maybe to d6, and you will try to give up this the other rook for the bishop to win the bishop and the pawn. So if you guys are interested how the game might be concluded, let's say rook a7, you give some checks, rook to a1, let's say you harass the rook a little bit, you will capture the e3 pawn. There was no stopping that. Let's say rook to f1, and okay, it seems that white is just shuffling the rook back and forth, but now rook e to e2, rook to b1, you still wait, rook to e5 now, and now after the king moves, you will double up on the e file, and now the problem is like I said, you can't defend everything. Now you win the back rank first. You play after something, rook to e1. Now you force the rook off of the back rank, or white trades, and then we continue with our plan of bringing the king to c5 and just picking up the pawn on b5. So here, white will have to move the rook from the back rank, and now you set up both of the rooks on the back rank. You will play rook to e1, and now white will be without a choice. He will have to trade rooks, otherwise he's just gonna get checkmated. Let's say captures, and now we proceed with the plan of just winning this pawn. Whatever you play, king is coming to c5, and after the bishop moves, you will happily capture this pawn, and now either you move the rook and start advancing the pawn, or white trades, and now of course you are completely winning. You just move the king and advance your passed b pawn to victory, as one most often does. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Very nicely done by Nepo already after he captures on d5, a completely new position, and then this beautiful bishop to b4 move. I don't know if, I mean, surely it's not something spectacular that would work well in a World Chess Championship match, but if there was a classical Queen's Gambit declined, you know, with all the main lines, then we might see this, and you know, it could be a very interesting approach to see how Ding would handle such a position. But okay, here he was able to probably use some of his World Chess Championship preparation, so we'll see how long that will last him. As Fabi say, maybe one tournament, but maybe even more. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Very, very nicely done by Nepo. I would like to thank Mark Burzakaki, Keith Tester, Edmund Freeman, Evan Bursey, and Mazin El Sarag for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of this wonderful classical tournament until it finishes. Let's see if anyone can break 2800 here, or will someone else be the hero of the show. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your